thoughts on our next unit, chapter 6, 7, and 8, which is talking mostly about credit, the goods, the pros, the cons about credit. Please forgive me, I do have a bronchitis, so my voice is a little raspy, but if you'll bear with me, hopefully we'll get through this. Chapter 6 and 7 is basically talking about the different types of credit, some of the things that you want to look at when we're talking about credit. One thing that you must know is the two different types of credit. You have closed-end credit, which is basically your home loans and your car payment. Those means that you've borrowed a specific amount, you know how long you're going to pay it back for, and your payments remain the same. The second one is open-end credit, and it is your credit cards, store credit, anything like that that you add to your balance, and then hopefully you pay your balance off. They're not going to remain, your payments are not going to remain the same. So you have to be really careful not to run up credit card balances, because you can get overwhelmed with credit before you know it. The second thing I want you to be real careful about when you're looking at the different types of credit, first of all, is what they consider the 5 C's of credit. This is what mortgage companies look for. This is what banks look for when they are evaluating whether to loan you money. First of all is your character. Do they think you're going to repay the loan? 2 is the capacity. Can you repay the loan? What is your stability of your job? Where do you work? How reliable is that income? Very, very important. That you have a good work history. Believe it or not, they do look at it. The third thing is the capital. What is your net worth? How much money do you have available? Do you own your own home? Do you own a car? Do you have to pay alimony? Different things like that. Collateral. What do you have that you can give them, that in case that you default on this loan, that they can collect their money back? And then the fifth thing they look at is, what are the conditions? Believe it or not, the economic conditions affect your loan, your interest rate for loans. Back in the 2000s, when we had the market crash, banks were not lending money. Banks were going out of business because people didn't pay their loans back. So they've become very, very cautious when it comes to paying loans back and giving money out. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to know the difference between the debt payment to income ratio and your debt to equity ratio. What you do for your debt income to ratio is you take your net expenses, not including a house payment if you have one, and you divide it by your net income, not your gross, your net income. If it is more than 20%, if you do get a loan, you're going to pay an extremely high interest rate on it. So you want to always make sure that that is below 20%. And then the debt to equity ratio is where you divide your total liabilities, everything you owe other than your home and your mortgage. And then if it is about 1, the consumer debt roughly equals your net worth. When you're doing that, you divide the liabilities by your net worth. If you go over, they want it between 0.33 and 0.4. If it's higher than that, again, they're going to be very leery about loaning you money. And also, they're going to charge you a higher interest rate. So those are 2 things that you need to learn. The second thing is, you always want to look at your credit rating. You want to know what your credit score is. You can, in your the credit bureau, there's 3 of them. There's Experian, there's Equifax, and then there's TransUnion. You can get 1 free credit report every year. Now, in the last couple of months, there's been a big Equifax had data breaches, and so they suggested if you have credit cards, that you go in there and you freeze them, and then that way no one can open up credit cards in your name. That's why it's wise to check your credit rating at least every year. If there's any dispute, then you need to follow the directions, and the book also gives you how to file a claim, how to dispute anything on your credit report, and how to get that off of it. The other things that you want to look at in this one is your FICA and your Vantage score and how that is calculated. It goes into detail whether you're on public assistance, whether you have housing loans. They do also, let me caution you, they look at student loans. A lot of people think, oh, I can default on my student loan. That will get you in trouble trying to buy a house quicker than anything is defaulting on student loans. So be really careful. On page 211, it's going to give you some tips on how to improve your credit score. So if you have a low credit score, hopefully your credit scores will be between 650 and 800, which is about normal. Anything lower than 650 is kind of a risky credit score, and you'll need to improve on those. So basically, that is chapter 6. Chapter 7 is basically the different types of institutions that you can get credits from. Commercial banks. I'm a fan of credit unions for anyone just starting out because they have lower interest rates. They're a little easier to work with in a bank because they're stockholder owned. So when you join a credit union, you own a portion of that credit union. Life insurance companies, I'm not a fan of a life insurance company as a loan. And then, of course, federal savings banks, basically the same as another bank. One thing is you always want to know when your payments are due, how much interest you're paying, how long you're going to have to pay. Excel has a wonderful spreadsheet app that you can actually go in there and figure out an amortization schedule on any amount of money you borrow, see how much money you are paying back versus how much you borrowed, and it will astound you at how much you pay back. So you want to make sure that you look at that. Another thing is make sure that on page number 243 of your book, the rule of 78S is called the sum of the digits, and that's to determine how much interest you've paid at any point in a loan. Again, anytime you can pay more than the minimum balance, pay. For instance, my husband and I have one car payment, and every month we send in additional money, and we always make sure that we say principal only. Don't let it just go to the loan. Make sure you put principal only. Anything, 25, 50, 75, 100,000, whatever you can afford, pay it, get it paid off. Make sure that you do that. The other thing that the chapter 8 talks about is shopping, consumer purchasing strategies. This is a real big chapter that you need to look at and you need to study. You want to look at when to buy. Don't just run out to the store. And I mentioned this in last week's thing. If you have a credit card, freeze it. Do not don't thaw it out until you get ready to have to walk to the store to buy something. That'll prevent you from overspending quite a bit. I'm a fan of debit cards because if you don't have the money, you can't use it. But know when to shop. I heard this morning on Channel 2 News, Clark Howard was talking about when to buy Christmas gifts. And he said the time to start Christmas shopping is November the 1st through December the 10th. He said that's when you're going to get your best deals. Black Friday used to be the big day. They're not having as many deals on Black Friday. So start shopping now. Don't wait till December 20th and start shopping because you are going to probably pay a little bit more. Know where you want to shop. Compare, compare, compare. You don't always save money going to the big warehouses because you buy in bulk and then it may go bad before you use it. Brand comparison. Most of the time, I cannot tell a difference in a store brand versus a major manufacturer. There are some items that I will not buy, store brands because I just don't care for them. One of the places I love to shop for groceries is Aldi's. They don't carry brand food or brands, but their products are just as good. My husband is a milk fanatic, and we used to only could buy Kroger milk. And we now go to Aldi's. Their milk is $1.50 a gallon cheaper, and he actually cannot tell a difference between it and Kroger brand milk. So that's something you want to think about. The last part of the book is the chapters talking about buying you're buying your cars. You need to know what you're looking for in a car. Of course, if you watch Clark Howard, you watch Dave Ramsey, all of these credit people tell you never buy a new car, always buy a used. I prefer to buy like a dealer um, the one that they drive around, and then it's got 5-10,000 miles on it, because it's still under warranty, and I know they've taken care of it and made sure it's maintained. So that's a way of going in order than if you don't want to buy used. Remember, when you buy a used car and you drive it off the lot, it's depreciated $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So you want to look at that and buy the different ones. It also talks about um, buying hybrid versus gas. Um, I have a guy from Cherokee Toyota comes, and he talks to my on-campus classes, and he's not a big fan of the hybrid cars. I mean, leasing, not hybrid cars, excuse me, of leasing a car, because you really are just upside down. You get no benefit once you turn it in. Everything you've paid is gone. If you're in work and you're using it as a tax write-off, then I totally agree with it. But generally, most of us do not want to lease a car. Hybrids, when you look at the maintenance and the cost of replacing that battery, may be more than you want to look at. So that's talking a little bit about cars in chapter 8. Hope you have a great weekend, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.